I was losing my sense of confidence. I was just writing down a ton of notes because I couldn't remember anything. I just felt like I was becoming kind of like an idiot. I was like already struggling with imposter syndrome. Different things happen in life. I didn't want to get out of bed. I didn't want to do anything. And one of the things that are important to me is that I don't want my children to grow up having a childhood where their mother is depressed. So I started going to modern therapy. And then I went to see my favorite gynecologist, and she offered me first Effexor because I was also having night sweat and insomnia. I wake up in the middle of the night freezing cold, and it just made my depression even worse. And I started with the Effexor, and the night sweats went away, but I was still struggling with the weight loss, and I still had like the foggy brain and all of that. I went to another physician, and he said, just have to accept it. It's just part of life.
And welcoming Debra Fronza to the Menopause. This is the podcast for the women who refuse to pause. And it is an honor, a pleasure, a pleasure to have you here. You've not only been just an amazing patient, but you've allowed me to your physician and your friend. And I wanted to bring you on because your story is amazing. And I've watched you just take over the planet. And I think that you're just in a position to inspire so many women to take on this journey of menopause head on, as you did. And so let's start with how your journey. How did you start? How did you get involved with this crazy Jamaican doctor?
First of all, I love the name of your podcast.
Yay!
What happened was I turned 45, and then suddenly things started to change. I started to gain weight, and I hired a personal trainer. I got a nutritionist to help me with my diet. I was working out like crazy, but I wasn't losing any weight. And if all those who know me know how important it is for me to have my body look a certain way.
Very particular.
I like to call that hot.
So I can't say that until she says that, but she's hot. And not hot flashes.
I love it.
Exactly.
Yes, I love it. And so anyway, now that changed, right? Like suddenly I was having a challenge with that, which I think also helped me feel depressed as well. And because I just didn't like the way that my body was responding, and I could just drink water and I would gain weight. And so it was really kind of disappointing because I was so used to, if I see like a little bulge, I just go do a little quick run. But even after running a marathon, nothing changed. Right. And so it was just really disappointing, frustrating. But then I didn't think about the fact that, I'm 45, menopause is coming along. And then I started having issues with like remembering things. And that made me feel very insecure in myself, especially at work.
Preach.
Yes. And so I felt like I was losing my sense of confidence. I started taking like copious amounts of notes for anytime I would have a meeting. Like I was just writing down a ton of notes because I couldn't remember anything. But I didn't associate that at the time with, my body's going through some changes. I just felt like I was becoming kind of like an idiot. I was like, you're kind of stupid. I was like already struggling with imposter syndrome, right? And so it just felt like, well, see, there it is. I told you, right? And so then I started having that issue. And then, I relocated to Italy and I started feeling depressed. But I thought this was right after COVID. So I thought, is it, part of COVID? Is it the fact that I've moved away from my comfort zone, my friends, that I was used to, I don't feel good. I could just call them up. We go have a drink and we chit chat about it, right? Now it's not as easy for me to do. And so I thought that was all part of why I was feeling that way. And then I just really one day hit the bottom. And it was to the point that I didn't want to get out of bed. It was a struggle for me to get up and say, take the kids to school. I had to take time off work because I just couldn't really function. And it was like 2 weeks of that. And those who know me know that I am just like
all energy.
Yes, a ray of sunshine. You know, I am not used to being depressed, right? I mean, yes, of course, you know, you have your moments, different things happen in life, but this was like debilitating. Like I didn't want to get out of bed. I didn't want to do anything. And one of the things that are important to me is that I don't want my children to grow up having a childhood where their mother is depressed and doesn't want to get out of bed. And I had children at an older age, right? And so I don't want it to be that I hit menopause and then I'm just miserably depressed. And that's what my kids remember about their childhood, is that their mother's always irritable, you know. And so I was like, I can't do this. And so I was talking to a girlfriend, and, you know, the two things that I did was, one, I started therapy. So I started going to modern therapy. And what was challenging was, you know, what was really good about it was that she offered virtual appointments. And when you have a busy life, it's so hard to make it happen. But with virtual appointments, I was able to just put it on my calendar and just show up at the time, right? So that was one thing. And then I went to see my favorite gynecologist. I wonder who that is. And I said, you know, I'm just feeling really down. And, you know, and she offered me first Effexor, because I was also having night sweats and insomnia. And so I was struggling with sleeping. So you had all of that up. I'm gaining weight. I'm not sleeping. So I'm tired all the time. I forget. I don't feel competent at work. I'm having these night sweats. So I wake up in the middle of the night, freezing cold. And it just made my depression even worse. You know, when you have it just piles on, right? And you just don't know what to do. I remember that you had a presentation that was part of our package that we won from Robert's school.
That's right. That's right.
Yes. And you did a presentation and you talked about menopause. And you said you had a depiction of a mountain and a woman standing at the top of the mountain, and you likened it to menopause. And you said, so you could just drop off this mountain and just fall miserably to your death, right? Or
the death of quality of life, non-physical death. Or
you could get a parachute and coast down, enjoy the view on your way down, put on a little music, you know. And I said, I want that. I want to do that. I want to coast. You know, I want to enjoy my journey, right? And so you mentioned Effexor, as I mentioned, and then you mentioned the testosterone. And I said, I got to think about that, because it was kind of a new concept for me. I went back and I started with the Effexor, and the night sweats went away. But I was still struggling with the weight loss and just my energy. And I still had like the foggy brain and all of that. And so I was like, you know, I'm just going to go for it. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I remember you came and I was like, she said yes to the dress, you know? I was like, all right.
And I'd say it's the best decision I ever made, because during that time I felt like I was being put out to pasture, right? And I started doing all this research as I started realizing, you know, here I am, it's the change. I went to another physician and he said, well, I mean, it's the change. You just have to accept it. It's just part of life, really.
Suck it up, buttercup.
Yes. And I was so disappointed. I was like, we're in 2024 and you're telling me to just accept being this miserable for, I hope, the next 50 years, but not to be miserable. Right. And so I was like, oh God, this is not going to work. Right. So come here, I do my testosterone. Oh my God, it was like a game changer. Oh, I mean, can I say this on, just my sex life just improved. My poor husband started faking that he was sleeping.
Right. He's losing weight. Exactly. Yeah. Exactly.
I was like, honey, you awake? I was like, what you doing for lunch tomorrow? And dinner?
I know. Poor guy.
Meet me in the bathroom.
I know, right? Poor guy. This is awesome.
Every man's dream, right?
Every man's dream. Every man's dream.
Also mine.
Yes. Exactly. And to feel like it, right?
Yes.
And again, it's, for most women, that's where the struggle is. I mean, you'll get it done once you get over the hump, right? But to know that you can be the protagonist, right?
Yes.
And control when you get your vitamin S is monumental. And again, I think one day, hopefully I'll get a chance to do studies where I show how orgasm changes everything.
Oh my God.
But it's so awesome in terms of what it can do and what it's done and opening your mind to improvement, right?
Yes.
And I think that's what's most amazing about you is you got to the point where you're like, I'm going to do this.
Yes.
And I think just hearing that from you, and it's just so brave of you to say it, but just hearing that from you is going to just inspire so many women who are afraid to say it, right?
Yeah.
And who do it. There are those who do it just because they feel it has to get done, right? They're in a partnership and this is something I got to do.
Exactly.
But to be in a position where you get something from it every single time, right? That benefits everybody. Right.
Exactly.
So now that, your husband has lost a lot of weight.
I'm in a happy relationship again.
Right. And so the relationship gets better.
Right.
And everybody's happy.
I'm a happy mom. I turned 50 last year, and it was the best birthday I've ever had. I spent an entire month celebrating because I just felt so good.
Because she looks like she's 32.
I love it. I paid you to say that.
Never. You look amazing, and it's so funny. Like, I mean, obviously as your friend, I see you more often, but it's also amazing to watch you move, right? Like, Debra enters a room and she talks with her entire body, right? She laughs with her entire belly. Like, it's just she's just such a joy to be around all the time. And she's like this all the time. Like, it's so crazy.
That's why I missed it when I had my down moment. I was like, what is going on? Where's Debra?
And I just let you all know that she's flying in, right?
Yes.
To get this done.
Exactly.
So tell me about your Italian comrades. How are they feeling about your pellets?
I felt a little bad. So, I got my shot and I went back home and I was having the best time. I mean, we would go out to drinks and I'd be like, oh my God, ladies, let me tell you. Everybody around the bar would be like, what did she just say she's having sex 5 times a day?
Green with envy. Green.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
Yes. And, I actually felt a little bad because it's not as easily available to have the type of care and treatment that I've been able to get here with you, right? Like a physician that actually focuses on menopause. And it's not just, let me give you this pellet and go. You spend the time to really understand a holistic approach, right, to menopause. And as I mentioned, when I went to a physician and he said, just suck it up, right? That's kind of what they hear. And they're complaining about, low sex libido. They're complaining about just feeling tired and irritable all the time. They're also going through their weight gain that no matter what they do, they're having a difficult time losing it, and I was like, oh God, I was there. And I start telling them my story, but then I feel a little bad because they don't necessarily have this available to them, right? So even though they would like to do something about it, there isn't the resources at the moment. And so I feel bad because I'm going to get on a plane and I'm going to fly over here and I'm going to get my shot. And, my sister, they're both also going through menopause. I was like, you guys need to get in. I'm like, anybody that talks about it, I'm like telling them to come. But then one of my sisters was like, oh, but I don't know if I can afford it. I was like, girl, you put a menopause account aside and you just drop a few 20s in there and
they
then
add up. They add up.
Exactly. I've got a menopause fund.
Right? You know? That's for the next podcast. The menopause fund. I love it. I love it. I love it.
You prioritize, right? You put money away so that you always have enough to take care of the most important part of you. Because once I do that, then everything else for me is just, slam dunk.
So on that note,
yes,
because since we're how do you think it changed you from a productivity perspective, from a work perspective?
Oh my gosh, I'm a whole new person.
Reach.
I have risen again.
Ooh. I can't take it. I can't take it.
My heart.
I can't take it. Be still. Tell me in what way.
I am just rocking it. So when I was going through this down moment, I literally almost quit my job, right? And I read the research that lots of women end up in that position where they end up doing that, right? Mm-hmm. And but now it's like I have a whole second life, a whole new me. Mm-hmm. I am now the COO of my company. I have 30 employees and growing like crazy. This weekend, we're doing an employee retreat and I am just rocking it. I'm just rolling out restructuring all over the place. I mean, I'm just so excited. It doesn't even feel like I'm working every day. Like I finally found myself. And so I am this like unstoppable force.
And she radiates that energy, can I tell you, because you have just totally inspired me, just in terms of all that you're doing, because you went back and you did your master's.
Right.
And I mean, and that's hard to do when you're in this age, yes, right? Because you got to read and study and, right, and it's hard to, go back to that academic world, right, but you did it, yes, and now you're applying it, right, and just kicking butt,
right? And I completely changed my career. Like my background is nursing,
right?
And so I've completely transitioned away from nursing, and I'm now, in the construction field, right, as a COO and
as a female, yes, as a female,
exactly,
which is crazy.
As I bring on the testosterone. Baby.
That's right. That's right. We just need a little bit. Ooh, and that's what it does. Like it's just so crazy. And there's one word for that is courage. And that goes back to the beginning of your journey, right? Yes. It's to when you felt as low as you felt, to have the courage to say that there is more. And right, that's how you inspire other women, and that's how you inspire your own children, right, to not give in. And this is second chapter planning, right? Yes. And I want to be on this journey with you, right? Like, I'm kind of like, what's next? What are we doing next? Like, this is crazy. Yeah. And so I think that how you start to change your microcosm and how you're starting to change your macrocosm, right? Yeah. Your work, you're in another country, on this podcast, it's just such an inspiration. What do you think I just wanted to touch on the subject of what do you think are kind of cultural barriers for women in terms of seeking help and what menopause means?
Well, I think for a long time, the word menopause has been a taboo. Mm-hmm. I think people are afraid to say that word. Mm-hmm. I think as women and as females, we spend a lot of time talking about the reproductive part of our life, right? There's the talk that happens when you're 13 and your cycles start in. Mm-hmm. Then there's the next phase in my life, I'm going to find someone, get married or have a partner, and then I'm going to have children. And there's lots of talk around that. Everybody comes out of the woodwork to tell you about pregnancy and delivering and managing your kids. However, it stops after that. Mm-hmm. No one starts talking about what happens after that. Mm-hmm. And so the one thing that I feel that we can do as women is start the dialogue. Mm-hmm. Because what I have started doing is the dialogue, and it's amazing how women are coming out of the woodwork going, oh my God, I'm having the same issues. Mm-hmm. It's so great to hear that this is why, mm-hmm, and there is something I can do about it.
That's right.
Right?
That's right.
So I feel like that's some of the challenges, but I mean, I am living my best life right now. I thought I was going out to pasture and I'm living my best life.
Can you imagine if we missed out on this? Oh my gosh. It is an honor, a pleasure, an honor to sit here with you. Thank you for the inspiration that you brought me. Thank you for the inspiration she's bringing you. And I'm ecstatic to watch you evolve. I'm here for you, whatever you need. And let's continue the journey and the talking.
Yes, let's keep the dialogue going.
Let's keep the dialogue going.